Coop from Garage Gym Reviews, and there are essentially two types of gym equipment, those with technology enabled and those without. And just a couple of years ago, it was similar to that in that there was two types of smart home gyms, Peloton and then everyone else. It's the same thing we see in cars. Right now, MKBHD made a video basically talking about electric cars, and what he said was there was essentially electric cars made by Tesla and those made by everyone else. However, that may have been the landscape a couple of years ago, but today we have many more players in the game with lots of money. In fact, home gyms, and specifically smart home gyms, is big business. Just to give you an idea of the landscape, Tonal, which is one of my favorite pieces of smart home gym tech, recently raised a $250 million funding round, essentially making them valued at $1.5 billion for a piece of gym equipment. In fact, it's just one piece of gym equipment that mounts on your wall, that's a screen, and it has other things attached to it. Lululemon bought Mirror, which is like the body weight type training that's basically just a vertical 9x16 monitor. Lululemon bought them for $500 million just a little bit ago. So $500 million for a screen that basically stands upright that really doesn't have much tech involved. It's just like a shiny LED screen with, honestly, it's beautiful programming, but the technology involved isn't that outstanding. Tempo closed a $220 million Series C round of funding, which is basically, again, very similar to Mirror. The difference is they're using a 3D camera to track various movements, but $220 million for gym equipment. Oxfit, one that you probably haven't heard of, looks similar in some cases to Tonal, but has some other capabilities and is much larger, and I think isn't just for home gyms, but is also marketed to like physical therapists and things like that. Just raised $12.5 million, basically almost all from Dallas Cowboys players. But this is a company, again, that's within this space, within the smart home gym space, that's coming in. That's not to mention the dozens others that are out there. On to the next one. Hydra raised $52 million. And then you got Echelon, which is essentially a Peloton clone. They raised over $60 million. So that's just conditioning devices that are already out there where they're adding a screen and adding some sort of technology-enabled devices so you can use them and feel connected in your home gym. Coincidentally, the anti-home gym, the most anti-home gym company I think that's out there, Planet Fitness, recently had a minority stake put into iFit, which is owned by Icon, which is the maker of Nordic Track, Free Motion, and all those companies. Possibly the largest equipment manufacturer in the world. Planet Fitness is recognizing that the home gym market, the smart home gym market, is something worth diversifying into and is investing within that company. I have no idea how much, but probably somewhat large amount within basically their direct competitor in a completely different space. And then lastly, the elephant in the room, Peloton, which in 2020 had almost $2 billion in revenue and still was not profitable. So the idea behind this is essentially that smart home gyms are big business. They may be small spaces, they may be for the average consumer, but the amount of money being spent on and being pumped into and being received through smart home gyms is big time. Which leads me to say, and this is something I've been saying for a while, feel free to let me know in the comments if you disagree, make sure you hit the like button on your way down, is that home gyms are the future of fitness, and specifically, I'm going on record to say this is on video, write it down, smart home gyms are the future of fitness. Not just the future of home gyms, smart connected home gyms are the future of fitness. So with that idea in mind, I want to talk to smart home gym equipment manufacturers and tell you what's good and what you need to look out for, and tell you what the home gym community likes, what we don't like, and what we want to see in the future. So let's start off with this. Dear smart home gyms, hardware matters. So what I mean by hardware matters, if you've used any of these smart home gyms, you recognize there's two sides of it. There's the side that's the software, which is what most of these companies are really like designing their companies around. It's really what they're focused on. It's really what they're bringing engineers for. They're looking to make a great software experience. It's the reason you use Peloton. If you use Peloton, you recognize training on a Peloton bike, the reason you're doing it is because the experience. It's because it makes you feel like you're literally in a cycling studio. It doesn't make you feel like you're in a spare bedroom or something. It engages you in and it makes you go harder. You're competing against other people. The experience is amazing. Tonal, the same way. It's like every time I use my Tonal, it's a completely different experience from the week before. They're constantly iterating, constantly giving software updates, constantly updating everything. But here's the thing. I think a lot of times these companies are overlooking the fact that hardware still matters. It's the reason that companies like Rogue Fitness have grown so well is because all they focus on is the hardware side of things. They don't do anything with software yet. I'd like to see it, but they mainly focus on the hardware. Think of it. Barbells. Their barbells are some of the best value in the world. Squat racks, same thing. They're focusing on the hardware and they made big business with the hardware. A Peloton bike, honestly, in my opinion, is not that great. If you compare a Peloton bike to a Kaiser IM3, a Kaiser blows it away every day of the freaking week. Same thing with Tonal. Tonal, by and large, is one of my favorites of the smart home gym techs that's available. However, it still creaks and has all this plastic, and it's not the best feeling like functional trainer that's out there. Compared to the one behind me from Free Motion, yeah, completely different environment, completely different company. Although kind of a similar price point when you really think about it, because they're both within that like high dollar range. The Free Motion blows away the Tonal as far as feeling of movement. So what I want to say is you got to combine both the hardware and the software side. Continue to like iterate on the software side, but listen, people still want good hardware. They still want good knurling on bars. They still want like good pulleys. They don't want it to hear it creaking all the time and feel like it's going to fall apart. On the bikes, like the adjustments, there need to be a lot. Peloton, we don't want kids dying under the treadmills. These are things that they do matter. So focus not just on the software, focus on the hardware as well. Which leads me to my next point. Dear smart home gyms, integrate with the equipment that's already out there. What I mean by that is there's all this equipment that every home gym is filled up with. A majority of it to this point is dumb. And I don't mean dumbbells. It's just not tech enabled. It's just standard weight. We got kettlebells, squat racks, dumbbells, barbells. None of them have any sort of tech enabled. I think combining tech with the equipment that's already out there is entirely possible, and it is being done in some instances, but by being able to use the equipment you already have, like with the tech that's coming out, is an ideal experience and an ideal transition to a fully tech-enabled environment within a home gym. Because the reality is, most people will keep their dumbbells, but if they can add something to it to increase and update the functionality, they'll be willing to do it. So like, rather than creating a dumbbell that has tech already enabled, add something that can add functionality to the dumbbell you've already got. We're seeing this in some instances. One company specifically is a company called PERCH. They're based out of MIT. They have this 3D camera that attaches to the top of the squat rack. We've been testing it for about 6 months or so, a beta version. And what it does is it uses the equipment you already have and tracks your bar velocity, it tracks your reps, all these sorts of things simply using the equipment you've already got. Tempo is kind of similar. It's just using a 3D camera and then is also just allowing you to use their barbells and plates and weights and dumbbells. However, you can use your own as well. So that kind of enablement is awesome. The other things are like push bands, which track bar velocity, or Rep 1, which also tracks bar velocity. There's all these companies that are using, the equipment you've already got, but it's not on like this grand scale. I want to see Peloton, Tonal, some of these others implement the equipment we've already got and make them better, more tech-enabled, more connected. Dear smart home gyms, either buy or collaborate with the companies already doing the hardware well. For instance, this is happening in some places. Peloton, for instance, bought a huge manufacturer of conditioning equipment so they could improve the stuff they've got, which is great. But a lot of these companies are getting away from what other companies are doing, and they're trying to do their own manufacturing, which is fine, but I think a lot of these companies should just focus on the software side and allow somebody else who's experienced to partner with on the other stuff. For instance, Rogue, Eleiko, Sornex, these companies that are manufacturing like excellent equipment on the hardware side, combine with them to do the software side. Other companies like Nordic Track, they're trying to do it all in one. So they're focused primarily originally on the opposite side. They're primarily focused on the hardware side. So making ellipticals, treadmills, that sort of thing. And then they brought people on to help with the tech side. What these companies can and should do is focus on the tech side and bring somebody else that can help with the hardware side. It's just gonna make it better for everybody involved. Dear smart home gyms, and this is something that I think a lot of people in the comments will definitely agree with, subscriptions absolutely suck. It's like a slow creeping death. And here's what I'd say, subscriptions are definitely necessary for most of these companies. It's that annuity model is such a beautiful model because it's just consistent. It always comes in. It keeps people engaged. They're basically financing the use of the product. I get it. But here's what I want to say is people are oftentimes leaving a gym membership so that they no longer have to pay or lease for the equipment. They no longer have to pay the monthly membership. So then they're going home, and I think this will change over time, but at this point, people get upset when there's a subscription involved. So I think one way to overcome this is, yes, I think subscriptions should be there because they increase the experience, they force the company to continue to iterate. If they're not iterating, if they're not improving the product, then eventually you're like, why am I still paying this subscription when this other company has something better? We see this with music right now, where Tidal, that's doing hi-fi music, hasn't been doing a whole lot of iteration, and then Apple comes in, the big giant in the market, and basically says we're going to offer spatial audio, and they're basically going to wipe away Tidal. So that can happen within the home gym space as well, but what I want to say is come out with good options that don't require subscriptions. The equipment's already expensive. It's not like you're just paying for a subscription. You're paying for the upfront cost of the equipment, say Tonal $3,000, and then you're paying an additional 40, 30, 50, 60 bucks a month. Where I think the options on something like a Tonal, a Peloton, those companies, a Hydro, could be good enough for the people that don't want to pay the subscription. And eventually they'll realize they want to. So basically, make it so you don't have to use a subscription. Make it so you can do it without the subscription, and the subscription is just an additional benefit that most people will want to opt into. Okay, do you, the home gym community, which the most amount of home gym owners are watching our channel than probably anywhere else in the world. Do you agree? Do you think that smart home gyms are the future? And if so, I guarantee you, representatives from all of these companies will watch this video. Main reason is because I will email them and call them until they do. Do you want to see other things in smart home gyms? What do you like about them? What do you not like about them? What do you want to see in the future? Let me know in the comments. We'll see you next time. Peace.